Hey YouTubers, it's Charlie. Thank you everyone that submitted questions for my Walking Dead Q&A. Everyone had a lot of great questions, most notably the people with like the walkers with the W's carved into them, and kind of like some meta conversation about what happened to Tyrese. Let's just start with those, just because almost everybody had a comment about one of those two things. So careful for spoilers from the episode if you haven't seen it yet. The wolves are near comment with the W's carved into the walkers, all the cut up body parts in the back of that car. That's probably going to be the next group of villains that we meet. I don't know that it's going to be the Saviors from the comics. They did that thing in the episode where Wiltshire Estates from the comics became Shire Wilt Estates. I've also heard that they're changing the name of the Alexandria Safe Zone. It'll still be the same place from the comics, but it'll have a different name. So they might do the same thing with Negan and the Saviors. Based on what they said, I don't think that Negan is coming anytime soon, but if we go to Hilltop next, like if that's like the in-between place between now and Washington, D.C., then we have to be really close to Saviors. For now, let's just think of the wolves as something that the show's doing that was not in the comics. And the other big thing, Tyrese getting T-Dogged, so to speak. If you're not familiar with what getting T-Dogged means, T-Dog was a character on the show. He was an African American. Tyrese came on, they promptly killed off T-Dog. Cut to now, Noah comes on, and Tyrese is promptly killed. There have been complaints about the relative amount of African American actors on the show. Demographically speaking, the area where they're in, like in and around Atlanta, there should be way more African-American people that have survived the apocalypse. I think the cast is slowly diversifying. Like now they have LGBT characters, so I think they're slowly getting there. But yes, we have to say it, Tyrese totally got T-Dogged. May he rest in peace. Okay, so on to questions. Here we go. Natalie Golding asks, did anyone else notice the half-body outside Wiltshire Estate with all the legs? And the upper torso and those bodies that fell out of the vehicle that Rick hit during their escape? Yeah, that was what I just mentioned. I think that those were the wolves, quote unquote, whoever that group is. Those will probably be people we'll meet soon. Next question, Michael asks, how far do you think they were from the last episode? And do you think they purposefully cut the seasons in half so they can make a huge jump in time? Well, no, they don't purposefully jump. It's not like a chicken and the egg thing. They cut the season just because that's when AMC sells ads for. Like they need that winter break because no one buys ads during that break. It's a weird advertising thing. There's just like peak buying periods, so that's where all their programming goes. As for the time jump, I don't think it's been that long. Maybe a couple weeks. It seems like they've only gone a couple hundred miles, like they're in South Carolina, like you look at this sign here. So they're on their way to Washington. I think they said they're within 100 miles of it. Next question, Havcon asks, I heard they were giving Alexandria a new name. Any word on what they're calling it? No, I have no idea what they would change the name to. I always think it's weird when they change the names of things that they're doing from the comics. You would think if they're going to do a comic book thing, they just call it what it is in the comics. I think the reason that they changed the name of Wiltshire Estates from the comics to Shire Wilt is just because they changed the storyline so much. They were just using it as a landmark. They weren't doing the story from the comics. So that might tell us a little bit about what's going to happen when they get to the Alexandria Safe Zone, when they get to Washington, D.C. Like, they'll have the safe zone, but they're not going to do the story straight out of the comics. Next question, Eric asks, what new obstacles or new characters do you think that Rick and the group will face on their way to DC? I would say the group that carved those symbols into the walkers. They'll probably meet them. I'd like to see Hilltop. That would be a lot of fun. That would fit in the timeline. So it's just like another big place that they can go if they're going to do stuff from the comics. And they did say, the producers did say, they're trying to do more comic book based moments. Next question, Gravity Gold asks, is Rick becoming a psychopathic killer? He told Glenn he just wanted to shoot Dawn the moment he laid eyes on her. Does this mean he's not going to trust other groups anymore? Yeah, I definitely don't think he trusts anyone anymore. Remember how he made them pull the Suburban into the woods and so they could walk in? It's going to take a really big slap in the face for Rick to get his shit together. Like, he's going to get darker and darker. He'll be like this until something major happens. And I think it's going to involve whoever the next antagonist is. It might be like a lead-up person to Negan, like someone who's not quite as bad as Negan, but someone who's so bad that it shakes Rick out of his funk. You could also argue that once they do get to Washington, D.C., once they get into the safe zone, and it's much more fortified, much bigger, a lot more people, Rick will chill out just a little bit. Next question, Minecraft Girl asks, do you think that the group will meet up with Morgan along the way to Washington or at Washington? Well, the producer said, Scott Gimple said that Morgan's story is going to take place apart from the group, so it sounds like he won't intersect with them till like right before the finale or at Washington. What I'd really like to see is them tie together the markings on those walkers' heads and the markings that Morgan is following. It could have been the wolves that left those markings that Morgan's following. We don't know that yet. Next question, Ben X asks, do you think that they're setting Sasha up to turn into Andrea from the comics? That's basically, for people that haven't read the comics, that's just like a more badass character. I think that she's on a character arc like that, but I don't think she's going to do exactly what Andrea did in the comics. It's kind of hard to tell what she was thinking at Tyrese's funeral there. She seemed sad, but she wasn't inconsolable. She didn't go Beth levels of crazy. Even in episode 8, she seemed like she'd really gotten her shit together. Like she was so mad about letting the group down that she's like, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to be hardcore. If she's not going to be Andrea from the comics, I guess it'd be better to think of her as becoming a lesser version of Carol. Someone who's badass, but doesn't quite have the level of demons that Carol has. Next question, Mario asks, what was with the intro to this episode? I liked it, yet it was all fancy and didn't fit with the rest of what The Walking Dead normally does. Well, yeah, so every once in a while, The Walking Dead, because this is the start of the new season, I think they wanted to experiment a little bit. They wanted to get a little artsy-fartsy. Sometimes when they change the way they edit things, it can be a little confusing, but then you watch it again, you kind of get it. You're like, oh, okay, they're just jumping forward and backwards in time. It's a fun way to tell a story, but if you're not prepared for it, then it can really take you out of the episode. It can be really distracting. So now that you guys have seen this, just plan for more weird visual storytelling. A lot of times, that has to do mostly with the directors that they pick for the episodes. Each director has their own unique style for shooting an episode, and sometimes they're planned out that way in the script phase when they're writing the episode. Thank you so much, everyone, for submitting questions. These are always a ton of fun to do. I'm really happy Walking Dead is back now that my Sundays are like slowly getting back to normal. It's like we're almost back to our normal schedule. So, which actually reminds me, congratulations to this week's giveaway winner, Chloe Elizabeth. You win the Amazon gift card. Just be sure to message me on my channel so I can get your communication info. The next round of the giveaway will start whenever I post next week's video. All you have to do to enter that is be a subscriber and leave a comment. And I think the YouTube problem that was going on where subscription feeds weren't showing you new videos, I think that's almost over. So you should see all the new videos like you normally would. I'm posting a new episode of Gotham tomorrow morning. I have some special stuff that I can't talk about. I'll be posting that tomorrow too, hopefully. So in case you guys missed it because of crazy YouTube subscription feeds, you can click here for my Walking Dead episode 9 video and click here for the Game of Thrones behind the scenes special. Thank you so much for watching. So let's all high five. I'll see you guys tomorrow.